one. I've definitely had some ones where like I forgot to bring water, and just because I talk so much, it'll cause my throat to just completely dry out. So, just waiting to see if the stream is live on my channel, so I can send out the link, and then I can open it and talk to anybody that comes and hangs out, and we can get to as it was previously, any weeks that we can have just talking about stuff. I'm trying to jump back on doing more like consistent weekly streams, just because for a while I was kind of like I don't really didn't keep up with for a bit. There was like a couple weeks where I just wouldn't do anything. There was no set schedule if I just didn't feel like doing a stream, and I want to get back to doing it normally, as well as here we go. Let me pull up the stream and then send out the tweet. I don't know as it will. Hang on, there we go. It always just sometimes will show up with audio, so it can it'll double play. What's up, Jared Punch? How's it going, man? I was just saying that yeah, then soon I can get back to just consistently doing it more, and then we can also go back to having like guests, having people come on and chit chatting. I want to do the Magic Parliament again soon. I'm thinking next week, because Black Clover is on break, and I kind of want to actually make that like the normal thing. Anytime that there's a break, that we have the people on, just because then it would, it's a little fun thing to kind of give people during a point of, no chapters, and it'd be something to always look forward to, kind of just like a almost brighter side to, when there's no chapters, because with Black Clover especially, there's always that there's the damn, I really wanted to get a chapter leak, but at the same time, so we know that Tabata works really hard, and it's nice for him to get a break. What's up? I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce the name. Shamik McIntosh, I think. Is that how it is? Mintosh? Anyway, hello. How's it going? Yeah, what's up, Jared Punch? What's up, AJ Morningstar? Oh, yeah? So, yeah, I think they finally, I think officially they've all got everything prepped up for the Eden Zero anime. There was one thing I didn't really... I saw this morning. It was I think they have an official Twitter, but it's all locked up. There's not many tweets. It's just waiting for it to be announced, which is really cool and really, really hype-inducing for everybody. So hopefully we can get that. I'm wondering if it gets announced, if we'll have like a visual, like just seeing who it is, or at least an animation studio. I'm really hoping it isn't. I don't mean in a hateful way. Cloverworks, they've done some good stuff, but like just from some of the stuff with Fairy Tail, it just doesn't look the best. Though I will admit, looking back, like I've been rewatching some old episodes, and some of them look a lot better. And I'm wondering how much of it was just, if I watched it on some free streaming site versus getting the officials. And I starting to like really just realize the gap in terms of overall when it comes to it. And I know there's been it for a lot of manga, but for me, like, who reads a lot more manga than watches anime, like, I've always known that I'm not always. I've known it for a long time, like, the gaps between when you read, like, a fan translation that's got wonky-looking quality versus, like, an official. The quality gap, not only the translations, but, like, how, like, well the scans look, and, like, just the quality of them in terms of, the coloration and, like, if they're HD or not and stuff, really shows. And so, like, it's been really, really moving more towards doing officials when I can. And then obviously if there's not an official and you can only get into something with non-officials, that's understandable. But I think you should always, when available, support the official. I've been trying to move more to that as much as possible, because it's also good for the release and not just for your own personal quality. You want to give back to the creators too. And I think when you have more officials, it makes it better for the environment of like the fandom, because then with a much more kind of like healthy system set up, then we'll get more series like with officials and stuff that obviously benefits everybody. But yeah, let me get some more stuff. I'm getting a lot of arguments on Twitter. Yeah, I've been trying to pull away from stuff. I've noticed that whenever I like get like kind of like roped into something, it takes too long for me to pull out. So I've just been trying to get like further away from a lot of stuff day by day, and I don't want to have not only negative vibes and too much negative stuff towards myself, but also I don't want to put it on other people's timeline of shit that's like either too sad or negative or like divisive. I don't want to divide people up, and I think right now that's a little bit more important, especially like with my channel, because I don't do stuff for like political real world stuff. It has to do with the fandom. It has to do with a fictional series that from multiple different fictional series that we like talking about. And a lot of people like use this stuff for like escapism, and I would rather like I want to support that, and at the same time, like I know like if there's real world stuff that I'm going to comment on, I'm like my opinion obviously matters, but I think everybody's opinion matters. But I got to remember of what people really kind of are in a lot of these. The people that follow me are probably usually for my content and my channel, and I would rather I think I would much rather deliver them stuff that is more towards the medium rather than ripping away from that. But obviously it's still important to know like current world events and stuff, but I've been trying to steer further away from that every day and get back to more of like what we're all kind of like there for, more all the weeb stuff, and I would rather argue with somebody about their opinions on a series or something than like really critical like real life stuff. Like I said, I've been trying to move away from that. It gets way too negative. It gets way too damaging. So yeah, I'm trying to just steer clear of that, and there's no way I'd be able just to stop full on. So I just gotta every day I've been trying to move away less and less. I've definitely been policing myself a lot more. Like I don't want this on my timeline, regardless of what I think about something, because like I said, I don't want things to get too negative. I don't know. I don't know how other people feel about this, but this is just how I feel, and I don't want to get in more troubles with people and stop talking to people just because we have different opinions on stuff. That's not what I'm there for. So anyway, other than that though, let me see some of the other comments and some of the other messages. I went on a little tangent on that just because it's been bugging me lately, and I really want things to get back to like a more positive light, and especially like in these fandoms when we're like a lot of people use them for like escapism, that it kind of hurts that when they're somebody who they probably follow because of stuff like manga and whatnot is bringing the real world stuff they're probably trying to escape from into their escapism. So anyway, that's what I just had to say left with that. Other than that though, I'm trying to not talk about a lot of that stuff. But let me see what else there is. This is why I never go on Twitter. Well, somebody told me that one of the section articles, it has to do with like how certain media platforms don't have to be responsible for stuff that people say on it, which I feel like I don't think they should have to, like, if somebody says something bad that they don't control, that they should get in trouble for it, but they should definitely put out an effort of policing it and trying to promote an environment where people aren't like saying like crazy stuff and promoting violence and hurting others and whatnot. Anyway, let me get back to Doom versus Silver. Doom. The thing about it with Silver is Silver was strong, but Doom should just by default be a lot more powerful. And with Doom, if you're by yourself, I think is where he's most dangerous. The fact that they had like a group fighting him made it a lot more beneficial. But if it's just one person, you're gonna easily, if you get paralyzed and caught in this attack, you're screwed because then nobody can help you. Then you're completely fucked. What's up, Zach? How's it going, man? Did I finish God of High School? I got to like 300 chapters in, and then like when I got caught up to it, it was right when he was fighting that girl with the purple hair on some like little planet, and that's where it was at the time, and then I just kind of fell off it, and I just got completely distracted by other stuff. I'll maybe get back to it one day. I just haven't. I've been busy. Silver versus Future Rogue. I'd go Silver. Future Rogue, if you give him obviously the dragons, but other than that, I'd probably go Silver. One of the things about Silver though, especially, is just mass AOE. That's definitely one of his biggest things that gets overlooked. Not just his normal stats, but it's just massive AOE. I've been busy with playing Link Evolution, preparing for the Sword and Shield DLC. I've seen all like the new Pokemon in the DLC. I think that's actually really cool. I'm glad they're doing that now. That's one of the things that I've always been like never like not a huge fan of when it came to like the Pokemon games, is whenever they would have like an event, they would use it to like it wouldn't expand a ton. And I like that not only is it being like new content, new areas, but it's also new Pokemon that weren't in the game otherwise. Because beforehand there was always like those event ones, like kind of like the extras, because you had like the main ones that were on the game, and then you had the one in between, kind of like how you had Ruby and Sapphire, so you had Groudon and Kyogre, and then you had Rayquaza, and they did that a lot of times But then you had like Deoxys, who was like, kind of like an event Pokemon. But then we're getting stuff like new Regis, which is really cool. New like region exclusives. I think that's actually really fun, and it wasn't in the game prior, so people couldn't just data mine it and then give you it. So it was a surprise to see, which I really like. And I think Jalal is going to unlock a power up due with his emotions and Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest. I have suspicions that he's going to become a Dragon Slayer with the way that 5th gen like is all set up. And I think it'd be a really cool way to advance this character. And plus, it'd be badass if you had like a heavenly Dragon Slayer. Because 5th generation also introduced like having Slayer types that are way different than you would expect of just an attribute. Because beforehand we had elements. We had fire, water. We had a water Dragon Slayer. We didn't have with Godstream. You know what I mean? Wind, sky and wind, gale, whatever. Light, holy, shadow, and whatnot. But now we're getting blade, armor, corpse, like sticky. I like the weirdness of the 5th generation Dragon Slayers, and I think it opens a lot more to kind of like build off of. And it gives you an opportunity also to create new types that, if they didn't exist naturally in the world. Because I would imagine, the way that I theorize that 5th generation kind of like comes to pass is, you have magic, you eat dragon flesh, and the dragon kind of power kind of integrates into your body. And then, whatever it is merges with magic, beforehand, so it kind of creates a dragon slaying type. It's like a blank dragon attribute, or blank dragon power, and then whatever magic you had. Like if you had, like, I'm trying to think of somebody weird, kind of like Vegetator, he's pretty much a support mage. He's got like his dancing magic. If he took it in, he'd be like, become like a dancing Dragon Slayer. Something weird like that, where it's like, I'm kind of confused to how that would really work, but based off of like how they kind of are created, you'd understand. That's kind of one of the things I've always wondered about, like the Lacremas, like when you have 2nd and 3rd gen. Like, we understand, obviously second and 3rd require a Dragon Slayer Lacrema, but I've always wondered if it was a blank Dragon Slayer Lacrema, and then it kind of just, buffs into whatever element they already have, or is it like, Laxus specifically had a Lightning Dragon Slaying Lacrema, Cobra specifically had a Poison Dragon Slaying Lacrema, you know what I mean? Or if it was like, oh yeah, he had Dragon Slaying Lacrema, and then learned Poison Magic, so he became a Poison Dragon Slayer. Let's see. What's up, Sinbad? How's it going? Vanica. At Robin. I almost missed this. Vanica full power, less than Xenon. Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering though how much of that is actually the translation, because it says full power, but we've had plenty of cases where the fan translation isn't even remotely accurate, and we have to get more towards the official. Whenever we get fan translations now, I kind of like, every time I see them, I think it more of like a grain of salt, where it's like, this is something to talk about, but we shouldn't see it as factual until we at least get the official translation. Because when it comes down to it, like, as you would expect, the fan translation is a fan translation versus the official, which sometimes the officials can be wrong, but generally the officials are by professionals. So unless there's something to otherwise kind of base it off of, like if it's a known error, like something very obvious, then you just go with officials. Where if like maybe like the officials get something wrong that we already know is like set in canon, like if they said somebody was in the wrong squad, like if they they said was in the Blue Roses or something, we know that's not even remotely right. That's just the author or the translator's messing up, which is understandable. They're not perfect and whatnot. This is why I never go on Twitter. Yeah. So I heard, but I was saying, I heard there was some article that was getting repealed, so Twitter is probably just going to shut down because they're not going to have the capability of keeping up with how many people post, which I'm kind of okay with that because, perfectly honest, Twitter is a toxic place. I kind of regret Twitter in a lot of ways. Like, Twitter has said some really good things come out of it, but a lot of really negative things, and I don't know. I feel like when you just kind of ignore Twitter's existence, if you just pull away from it, it becomes so much nicer and so much less. It just becomes way less toxic of an experience talking to people. Because I've never had like as as like hostile of like conversations as like seeing on Twitter. I don't know. It just gets to me and it bugs me. I'm not a fan. So if Twitter goes down, I don't really care. I'll probably kind of rejoice that I don't have to deal with it anymore. Hope when Black Clover finally returns, the animation is better. I think like I've said before, I think the animation is fine as long as they put they put the big effort where fans are hoping for, like the big fights and stuff, the things that the readers, because the readers and the watchers, anybody who's an anime original or a manga person that is wanting to see a specific scene animated, when we get to whatever those are, like big important parts, like when we saw Asta take down Zagrid, that they put a lot of effort into it, and not just because it's like, they owe us. I think as it's an appreciation, because like when that episode came out, like I guess they worked a lot of overtime, like they worked beyond when they were supposed to, because they really wanted to make like a really good scene. They wanted to keep the fans happy, which I thought was really good, really nice, and made me appreciate the animation team a lot more, because clearly they're not just, get in, get out, do your job and whatnot. They know that the fans are very passionate about the series, and we're very happy whenever they do really well, and so they're treating us really, really fairly. And that's when I think personally a lot of Black Clover fans are not pleased at all towards anybody that disrespects the animation team. Like, you can criticize, like, oh man, this scene doesn't look too good, blah blah blah. But I don't remember the YouTuber's name, but like they're talking about like how like, oh, they're not even trying, they're being lazy, blah blah blah. And like some of the scenes, and I was just like, man, I was unhappy about it. And then just watching like how many Black Clover fans were displeased at like the way that they were talking about it. It didn't go well. I know there was a lot of drama. So yeah, I definitely appreciate though with the Black Clover community that we understand the people are putting in time, they're putting in effort, and I don't think any of the Black Clover, well, not any, I think a majority of the Black Clover anime people don't come off as entitled about the quality of the anime. As long as we're think it's being well handled, I think we're relatively fine overall. There's definitely some negative people, but it's not that much. Like I don't see a whole lot of people negative, like straight out negative about like how the way the Black Clover anime works. The only time I see some real straight negative is when people are trying to like take jabs and they don't even like the series. So I'm wondering like, why are you guys even trying to watch scenes from it? Anyway, do you think they'll see another member of the Reaction Stays Galactic before the arc is over? If they beat Drac and Joe, they're probably going to show more like other members of the Reaction Stays Galactic getting the news that Drac and Joe has been taken down. Opinion on Fairy Tail Zero anime version. I thought it was fine. The thing actually that really confused me is because there's a part in the anime that they added, because when the anime happened, I was like, okay, they're going to do a 1-for-1, or they're going to add stuff, maybe prolong it. I personally thought they should have prolonged like a lot of parts and just kind of like extended out what was going on so they could have just more world explanation, more content from these pretty important characters that obviously made the guild. They had like one filler episode on the way over to Magnolia, which was really weird, because I saw like the one episode like, okay, maybe every few episodes they're gonna add some some anime only parts. But I can't remember like anything outside of that where they just had like one episode that was anime only, and it was really weird. Like, why would you just add the one? And then, I don't know. It was a strange thing. Will Natsu reawaken E&D later in this arc? Probably. The question is like, how will it like play into the story? I mean, like, Alderaan has a potential of really doing like a lot of interesting stuff with Natsu's Etheria side. It just really depends on like where, like, what is he gonna do that will awaken it? I think it would have to do with something with Lucy. Like, maybe something will happen where it will just like kind of like rage Natsu out like the first time and kind of like awaken it, but more towards the form that we saw against Smurfsphobia, where we're kind of going to see maybe a little bit more in control. Because I did like that. That was one of the things I really liked about the Smurfsphobia fight, is when we saw Natsu in that form, and I think it was so well done when it came to combining the two states of like seemingly his Etheria's form, because it's not been straight confirmed, but I think it's obvious, and his Dragon Force, is he was teetering between the two kind of I don't want to say personalities, attitudes, just from like him being his normal self, as well as having that kind of like colder, more like destructive, like a Etheria side that we saw. Like he was more focused, or not focused, like obsessed with one idea. Like when somebody was trying to go after Xerath and whatnot, but instead he was, talking about burning, Mercphobia's body just to ash and leaving nothing behind. Do you know Seth the Programmer? I know of him. I've never talked to him. Hopefully, this quarantine session has helped Black Clover animes get the break they rightfully deserve. Yeah, I'm glad that the Black Clover, both manga team and anime team, are getting some rest and getting everything kind of like boosted back, getting into a good health state. Rex is a man deserving of respect. I think everybody deserves some respect. I don't know. I think that lately I've just been really thinking more about state of things, and with some people trying to take shots at me, I just been kind of really more considering of who I even really kind of want to interact with, which I think has been a big thing. Because some people were mad at some of the stuff I said, but I personally, I think that you should be able to say whatever you want, depending on context and intent. It's kind of like a comedian. Like, a comedian can say something that's completely fucked up, but you know that they're kidding. You know it's a joke. You know it's for chuckles. So you don't take it too seriously. I think that's... I mean, people used to be like that normally, but then people got way too sensitive. I don't know what happened. I think it should be more on stuff like intent and context. And other than that, I mean, I think it should apply to everybody. I think everybody should be able to have that, because that's one of those things. Like, when it comes down to like stuff people can say, I think everybody should have the same kind of like stance and rights on things. I think everyone should be treated fairly. But I don't know. I've seen a lot of people just kind of really show themselves in a lot of this and how they actually feel about a lot of things, and I don't know. It's been very negative in a lot of ways. And that's one of the things that it's kind of been getting to me the most, is just how, like, with all the stuff going on, how many people are really just taking a lot of what's going on and getting as negative as possible, and really just not looking for things to fix, but looking for kind of like ways to make things worse. I don't know. I think people are being very short-sighted when it comes to this and some of the hostility. That's one of the reasons I'm trying to get away from it. And like less and less I'm trying to have on my Twitter page. I want to go back to just anime and manga stuff, video game stuff, and just keep back at escapism. Because really, the thing about, like, just commenting really quick again about just kind of like the state of things, I think one of the good things when it comes to like content creators for like manga, games, anime, and whatnot, I think it helps a lot of people deal with like some of the severity of things going on, some of the stress that comes with like knowing how things are, and like just talking about stuff that, instead of getting like kind of like what divides people. I mean, and like manga and anime and stuff, and your fandoms can divide people, but in a less serious way, where it's more of like a playful kind of like division. But like some of the actual stuff, I don't know. I want to get things back on a more positive track personally. And I really miss when like the worst thing that I'd see on my timeline is people arguing about fandoms and stuff. So I'd like to get it back to that state. And obviously I'm not going to be able to live in a pretend world, but I'm hoping that anytime somebody comes on Twitter and they just want to see some positive vibes, it'll just be some nice things that maybe I can put up there. I've been trying to put out a lot more positive like tweets and stuff. Anything that I think that put me in a better mood, and I think can put other people in a better mood personally. Do you think Guild Arts will survive 100 Years Quest? Personally, for me, I think if anybody in the Fairy Tail Guild dies within 100 Years Quest, it'll be Guild Arts. I think Guild Arts is the most logical candidate, because it can't be Makarov. Makarov has made it so far that if he dies, it has to be from old age. He can't have another like big sacrificial part. Like the dude, first off, the dude's a survivor. The fact he's made it this far in is crazy. The dude just completely has been outliving everybody. But on top of that as well, like it would just kind of feel weird if they if Mishima ended up trying to do that again and then kill them off. I think if Makarov, when Makarov dies, it should be from old age and just be like, fuck yeah, I made it. I made it all the way to the end. Guild Arts, though, I think Guild Arts is like I don't want to say perfect candidate to die, because that sounds super bad. But I think if anybody is likely to die from the guild, I think it'll be Guild Arts. And especially with Kana seemingly being relevant again, or at least seemingly, I think it's the most likely spot. Plus, it would, I could do a lot for Natsu. I could do a lot for a lot of the members of the guild, because a lot of them have a idolization of Guild Arts, because Guild Arts is really, he's the guy that a lot of them grew up knowing. It's like, big badass of the guild, really powerful dude, always going off doing all these crazy adventures that only a few people really in the continent could even do. So I think it would have a lot of impact on what's going on. I'd be very curious to know how it would happen. Like, it would have to something to do with the White Witch or Diablos. I don't think it'd be Diablos. Maybe something with one of the dragon gods. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Because right now, I don't Alderaan maybe, because Selene is in a weird spot. It's not going to be Mersephobia. I don't think it'd be Ignia. Maybe Viernez, and I still suspect that Elef Seri is a bad guy, but nothing full-on confirmed. It's more of me like with tinfoil hat on. What's up, Street? How's it going, man? Pokemon fandom has become too much for me to stomach. A Game Freak employee got COVID and they show no remorse. I don't know. The Pokemon fandom's been really weird about this. I don't know why they've been so hostile about DLC. It's actually been more confusing to me than anything. Because, well, obviously not anything. Amongst video games lately. Because it's like video games have had DLC for a long time. And they're putting in a lot of work. You're not just getting like some small ass patch. Like, they're getting a whole new zone, they're getting new Pokemon, they're getting new opponents, they're getting a lot of stuff. And I like that it's going to scale up, because one of the things about Pokemon that's always confused me, as the games themselves, is, obviously the max level is 100, but you can't, there was never really a lot of content enough in the game to kind of get your team up to max level. You'd have to grind. You'd have to, like, do a lot of, like, I remember when I was a kid, I went through, like, Pokemon Ruby's Elite Four, like, 50-something times on one go-through, because I was getting all my Pokemon all the way up, and I don't remember what my goal was other than, like, just getting up Pokemon, but I don't know. It's always been like, I feel like there should be enough content in there that by the end of that version, you got max level and you don't have to just replay the same thing. So adding more stuff and, keeping all that the new stuff kind of like scaling with the levels, I think is a really good idea. I don't know. And especially because, like, they're not just a company. Like, Pokemon is the singular biggest franchise. Like, they're huge. They're a massive brand. So, of course they're going to want to make money. It's weird to me. Like, not everything's going to be free. And if you don't want to pay for it, just don't get it. I don't know. It's fully optional. It's not like they're saying, hey, you guys, we're going to disable the game unless you pay for this. They're like, hey, if you want this extra content that's coming up, then, it's going to be DLC. It's going to cost this much. And it's not even like they're next to each other. Isn't there, like, because what is it? Sword and Shield came out, oh my God. I think it came out in, like, November or October. And the first DLC comes out, I think, I don't know if it's this month or next month. So more than 6 months. And then the next one isn't until, like, December. So there's more than half a year between each content gap. So it's not even a big deal. If you save $10 a month, I don't know how much exactly it is. I think it's like $50 or $40 for each of these patches. You just have to save a couple dollars every month, and then you got it. It's not like, hey, we've got them back to back, so if you want them, you're going to have to spend like $100 and something with, immediately. It's like, no, it's split up for a reason of not only so you're going to be playing the content over time, but also, like, so you're not just spending everything at once and you're not going to be, like, being hurt in the bank. I don't know. Some people kind of confuse me when it comes to, like, what makes them mad. Because it's not even like it's a huge deal. It's such a small thing to get upset about is video game DLC when it's just they're mad they have to pay for stuff. I don't know. Do you think that Jin and Hermit's backstory may be tied together since they both involve limb mutilation? I don't think so. I mean, isn't Jin... I mean, as far as we know, Jin's is, like, body modification. Like, I think with Jin's, just a guess, I'm guessing that he was maybe, like, a child soldier or something, and he just was constantly modified. And maybe that'll explain his very cold, kind of, like, chill personality. But on top of that, like, why he's powerful, why he's so skilled at combat and whatnot, I think it would actually really work for his story, as well as it would... it would open up a really, really serious, kind of like intense story for like seeing like how he grew up, but also like a nice opening for a journey of him kind of becoming more of a person, more of an individual instead of like a tool. Because that's really like when it comes down to like a lot of these things, like when you have like a child soldier, you have them as a weapon. They're not supposed to be a person. That's like they train them from the start. That's like the really messed up thing about it. So if you have something like that for Jin, I think that would actually be like a really, really kind of like complex and interesting backstory to see unfold. Let's see. I think Lucy needing a training arc to get better at combination star dress. I mean, she'll get it over time. Of course, she should be able to get it over time. And like as we see it used more often, I imagine her magic will get like her magic quantity will get stronger. It'll grow, get more powerful, and she'll be able to use it like way more regularly. I mean, like look at Lucy like back at the start when she wasn't able to close gates by herself, or like back when like using any of like her offhanded spells would be too much. I mean, like especially like when she couldn't close gates. Like if you look back at Galuna Island, she could only do a couple summons and then she's out. I mean, now she can just kind of like drop summons back to back to back, 2 at once, drop star dresses, do a lot more. And, you know, obviously that's shown like her growth and development through just the journey and experience. Jin Levy got pushed in Alvarez, and now the Wood Dragon got arced, pushing Grand Juvia. What ship do you think Machine will pull next? Well, I think Selene is going to be part of what like fully moves Urza and Jalal into the next spot. Because one thing I think that is an interesting opportunity to do is because obviously dragons and dragon slayers, Dragon Slayers, I'm trying to think back of any time where just a dragon in general eats their own. Because obviously we know dragon slayers and slayers in general can eat their attribute. I'm trying to think of just like a time specifically where a dragon ate their attribute. Off the top, I can't remember any off the top of my head exactly. If somebody can remember one, I'm just drawing a blank because I'm thinking about so many things at once, and obviously having a conversation with you guys. But the fact that we have Jalal who uses heavenly body magic, and we have Selene coming up who is clearly going to be set around the moon and space, because we know it's not just the moon that moon dragon powers work. We know it also has to do with like the stars and stuff. So I think there's an opportunity to kind of like do something there with Jalal, like maybe have her have a thing with Jalal, and maybe she sees Jalal's magic and maybe she finds him attractive or something as a human, and then like Urza has to kind of get a little bit more aggressive when it comes to Jalal to kind of move things forward, and then they can kind of like finally get together. I don't know, something like that. Because it's when it's characters that really like you can work them into the plot, and the plot, events in the story is what is able to kind of like help them develop. I think is way more interesting than just two characters like one day they're like, oh, let's go hang out sometime, then they become closer. It's more interesting when there's more character and kind of story reasons behind it rather than just kind of it happens. Selene, Celestial Dragon, Lucy, Celestial Wizard, just saying. I mean, she's moon dragon stuff, but if it's gonna be anyone that becomes a moon dragon or any form of like celestial dragon slayer when it comes to like what's going on with Selene, it'll either be Kana, and I'm putting this out, it's going to be either Kana, because Kana has Fairy Glitter, and Fairy Glitter works very similarly to how we know Moon Dragon power was described. Like they both absorb magic and energy from the stars, the moon, and the sun and whatnot. And Jalal, obviously, for having a magic already kind of similar to Moon Dragon powers, obviously having heavenly body magic. I don't think it'll be Lucy, just because I don't think Lucy... I personally don't think it'd be interesting. I wouldn't like the idea if Lucy became a Dragon Slayer. I mean, it's still a cool idea. Like, obviously, anybody becoming a Dragon Slayer would be cool, just because Dragon Slayers are awesome. But Lucy's got her own thing kind of going on right now, like with her Stardress mix, and I would rather kind of focus on that than anything else. And if there's something new introduced, the old thing would probably get kind of shoved away. And Gray's demon slaying, his devil slaying, obviously like had plot stuff going on, like why it happened, why we know it's happened, why it was important. But like keep this in mind, like once we got that, like he developed this Ice Make Unlimited style during the Grand Magic Games, and then once he got like his Slayer magic, I mean I don't think we've seen like an unlimited style since then, which isn't a bad thing, but like sometimes it could be better. I mean, because like Ice Make Unlimited was really just very fast ice make. It was just very, very fast, like mass ice make, versus like
very much more character related and plot, like important story stuff that went on with his becoming a Slayer. So, he got a better thing, in my opinion, than what he had before. But I think Lucy as Star Dress is a much better idea than just making her a Dragon Slayer. I think Jalal or Kana would be more interesting. Kana, I think would be interesting just because it'd be weird to do, because she's not a character that's really been that involved in the story. Like, she's obviously been in the series from the start, but she's never had, like, parts where she was a big character outside of the Grand Magic Games, or not, sorry, Grand Magic Games, Sirius Island. Even in Sirius Island, it was more of her personal backstory and stuff with Guild Arts, and not so much as, like, she gets her own big character arc and big shining moment, a boost of some kind, gets to defeat the bad guy, gets her own spotlight to have her own content. It was her, well, she got content, but you know what I mean, more of like a upgrade, get a battle and whatnot. It was much more backstory and character kind of like piece than anything else. But yeah, I think Jalal, in my opinion, would be the best candidate for it. But other than that, I would give it to Kana. I wouldn't give it to Lucy. What's up, Lewis? How's it going, man? What are you doing? How you feeling today, fella? What Dragon Slayer ability would you have if you had to choose? I would go for something like, so fire has been my favorite element for as long as I can remember. That was the first thing that kind of caught my attention with Fairy Tail, was Signatsu with fire magic. And I was like, man, that's really cool. I'm gonna check this out. And obviously, stuff just kind of get crazier and crazier. And I just love the story and the characters and stuff. But I would go something like, I would try and go something like kind of like an offbeat version. Kind of like you have, like, have it like a light dragon, but then you have something like Stings as like a holy dragon, where it's like still in the branch but different. Kind of like Atlas Flame is a Hellfire dragon. But I would go something like a Solar Dragon and do something cool with, like, the sun. I think that would be really badass. And then it's maybe, like, do fire, but it's also more of, like, heat. And then you could have, like, some probably really cool stuff. And then, like, my roar would be like it'd be like a big solar beam. It would be really badass. It'd just be like a concentrated heat beam just melting stuff. I think that would be really cool to see. Where are all the other dragons other than the Dragon Gods? Well, we don't know how many there are. Like, I think that there are dragons still out there, because before we got 100 Years Quest, that was one of my theories of, what could happen right now. I was like, well, maybe the, dragons could come out of hiding. Maybe something can happen that, like, characters that were in fear of Zeref and Acnologia can make an appearance now. And that's what we ended up getting. We did get a lot of characters becoming more active because the people that they were afraid of aren't there anymore. I mean, we don't know exactly if the White Witch was afraid of Zeref, but you know what I mean? Where clearly Zeref would have been a threat for her in her plan, but now, obviously, with Zeref dead, she's able to get a lot more accomplished. And that's how I kind of feel like you could have, logically, a handful more dragons kind of just exist now that Acnologia is gone. Because it could be like, oh, there's a handful that we're hiding out. Because the planet is huge. It's not like Acnologia It's not like Acnologia, had, oh, I can detect any dragon on the whole planet. It was like, no, I mean, it's on top of, like, that, he saw things, or he knew about dragons through, like, sense of smell. And we know that Irene was able to kind of, like, mask her scent somehow. So Acnologia wasn't 100%. He was suspicious of her, but he didn't know for a fact. So when we, finally got to her, he's like, oh, well, I should, I had my thoughts about this, but it looks like I was right. So there's clearly a way to hide yourself. There's clearly a way to kind of get, sneak past this dude's senses. So you can have other dragons in the world that have just been hiding and that have been trying to keep away from this guy. And the only reason they're still alive is because they're the few that have survived, or the few that have hidden from Acnologia for so long. They found what'll actually keep them from dying. So, like any other dragons out there in the world, I feel like there'd be a handful. I feel like there's just a handful. Viernez is the possible way to do that, because with other dragon gods, we know Mercrobia has never met Viernez. We don't know anything about Viernez other than we know he's the gold dragon god. We know his name, and there's I have some theories, because Viernez is Spanish. Viernez is Spanish for, I think, Friday, and gold dragon, secretive. I believe that his civilization, because so far all the dragon gods have also had their own they've all had their own kind of cultures and cities based around them, like some form of worship, some form of kind of like base of people, like with their own society that have a religious view on them, because we know that they're called dragon gods not just because they're powerful, but because they got to a point where people see them as a deity level being. So Viernes should have his own city, and I think the fact Gold, secretive, he's got a Spanish set name, I think that his city is going to be kind of like designed out of the lost city of El Dorado. So if you have some super secret lost hidden city, like maybe deep within the earth or something, that you could have other dragons there. Maybe that's like one of the reasons like why Viernes has never like been seen by other dragon gods. Is he's so secretive because he wants to keep any of these other dragons that he's kept alive, kind of set there and hidden. Or we could get like members of Diablos becoming dragons. That'd be really cool. That'd also be a way to kind of create more dragons in the world. Is just have Diablos, like maybe they have a couple members that went loose because of their 5th generation dragon slaying, and maybe because of that there's just some wild dragons roaming out in the world doing stuff. Let's see. Where was I in this? Since God Serena had 8 Dragon Slayer Lacrimas, I would suspect each one a specific element, just my take. Well, he had fire, water, wind, earth, and lightning. Those are the ones that we saw. The 3 of them we didn't know of, because we didn't get lightning straight stated, but there was a point where he's getting ready to attack, and I think there was lightning on his hand. So, and I imagine that all of his were very basic elements, because that would make him, I think that would make him both strong but not too OP, because like all of the, like if he's just got, I think that with his, the biggest thing that made him really like impressive is the fact that he's got all these elements, and not just because he's a Dragon Slayer, because each of the Spriggan obviously had really powerful magic, and God Serena as a Dragon Slayer, he's obviously going to have very high levels of durability and offensive capability. But on top of that, if he's got the ability to kind of replenish his magic and stamina from multiple elements to where he essentially could fight indefinitely. Like, he potentially could just be fight until someone, like, kills him or something. Because, you could be fighting him, maybe you get him kind of worn down, bam, you could literally pick up some rocks and eat some rocks. He could take in a large breath of air. He could drink water, fire, lightning, any of his elements, and get replenished, get his magic back, and get back in the fight. And on top of that, like, because of the way that we know enough magic, kind of just like if they kind of break through their threshold of like magic they take in, they can enter Dragon Force. I imagine he can do Dragon Force on his own. I don't think he was. We didn't get to see much of him, but he should be experienced and knowledgeable enough that he could do Dragon Force. But getting that kind of like forced version. Maybe something like that. What's up, Guillotine? How's it going, man? I just got done with the current Black Clover chapter. It's going fire. Man, that chapter's pretty crazy. I know I think it was actually also a really good chapter to leave off on a cliffhanger, because it was like one of those ones where it's like, I can't wait to see what happens. But I think the extra week is going to add a little bit more suspense to it. I think God Serena's unrevealed elements could be the same as Elemental Affinity's Rave Master. I already know the ones we already know fit. I mean, it could. It makes sense. I mean, but what was Seeks? Wasn't Seeks like, it was like Arcane or Infinity or something? I don't think you'd be able to have that. But I think I would just go with like basic elements. I would just kind of like throw basic ass elements in there, because I think that's what would be both useful but also balanced when it comes to God Serena's powers. Let's see. DC Broku's video on Marilyn is overrated. I haven't. I feel like if I watch it, I'm gonna get mad at him. Just because Marilyn is probably my favorite captain, and I'll get slightly salty, but I don't think I'll get like angry. But I'll probably like just be waiting, like, I have to get back at him somehow, and then I'm just gonna become like some obsessed dude trying to figure out how I can irk him and tick him off, but only mildly, only enough to kind of for him to just be like, I got to get back at him. But yeah, I don't know. I might watch it. I don't think she's overrated. I think she's kind of underrated. I think Yami, even though I really like Yami, I think Yami's a little bit overrated just because, like, some of the people think he's a lot stronger than I think he is. I think that he's kind of like in that same spot as Marileona, where he's in between Captain and Wizard King level, whereas some people like straight like think he's some people think that he's like pretty much Wizard King level. I think that's a little crazy. I wouldn't put him that far, but I don't know, some people do. Anyway, I think Laxus is going to be go with Mira, go on the Tumblr search. I don't want to search. I'm not going to Tumblr. I've already said this, if I had to pick one person to be in Laxus's ship, I've already decided from from this arc, I like Kyria. I think Kyria fits Laxus as a ship really well. I don't really like the idea with Mira, only because Mira and Laxus is mostly because of some interactions, but nothing romantic. The fact we straight out have Kyria like into Laxus, and I think that the fact that like the way that she is and how Laxus and the way that he's become like works into her style, I think is more interesting than just, hey, these characters were nice to each other before, ship them. I don't know. I think that works a lot more interesting because it plays off of a character's personality and another character and the way that their personality has changed and like how the story has reshaped them, which I think is a lot cooler. Broku's power scaling doesn't make any sense narratively. Well, I'd have to look at it. I don't know. Broku does this thing, I do my thing. I'd have to look more into like how exactly he does this thing to kind of argue with him. Well, debate him. I don't want to argue with Broku. Broku's pretty cool. I don't want to have any beef with him. Come on, people, do you still complain about its animation? Come on, man, it's animation good as long as it's important parts. That's what I think. I think that as long as they do like the parts that people are really hyped for, that it's fine. Because like there's I think one of the parts that happened in this last season of My Hero Academia is exactly what I'm against. And it's not just people complaining about animation scenes. It's complaining about animation scenes that it's like, so what if it didn't look right? There's a part where Todoroki's just holding a phone, and there were people upset that like it didn't look as good as the manga scene. I'm like, who cares? It's not like a big plot part. Like nothing's really going on that it's that important. Like you can say like, man, I really like the way this scene in the manga for like, you know, character reasons or whatnot. But like complaining that it doesn't look good in a scene that wasn't a vital part, when you had like the part where Deku like when he beat Overhaul and like how nice the animation was and stuff and how much extra they put into it than what was in the manga. Because especially that, when you take the part that people are really hyped about in the manga and make it look better in the anime, that's even like more like appreciative of the fans. You're doing more for them. And I'm just like, why would you then, like, if you're getting treated that well, complain about something as silly as a dude holding a phone not looking the best? Like, who cares at that? Like, with that, I don't know. Some of these people I've always thought was just kind of strange with their complaints. I've never been a huge fan of people like that, just because it to me it's always felt like they're just looking for things to complain about instead of something they genuinely are upset about. As a Black Clover manga stan, the anime is subpar. I mean, the anime does its job. They do what they can. They have a high schedule, weekly anime especially. Like, they're worked. They don't have long breaks. They don't have as much time to do stuff. And they had to spread their budget over more. So it's understandable of why it's not going to always look amazing. It's just the reality of it. That's one of the things also. It's like you got to keep in mind of you know, the situation that they're in and not just what you want, because not everything's going to be fantastic, not everything's going to look amazing, not everything's going to be like as much as one really good scene. You can't just see like a good scene like it needs to always be like this. It's like, no, I mean, they do what they can. They only have so many people, they only have so many resources and stuff. You gotta appreciate, you know, what you have. If there's parts that you think weren't fairly done, then you can logically explain it and, you know, express your upset. But it's when people get a little hostile, I think that is the issue, personally. Do you watch Blade Blade? I haven't watched anything along the past the original series. I rewatched it a couple of years ago. I remember they added it on Hulu, and I watched like the original one with Kai and Tyson. I actually liked it a lot more than I remembered. I haven't watched the newer ones. It's one of those series, though, that I'd be perfectly fine with watching, even though it's not like a darker anime or it's like a lot more battle-oriented. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! So there's something about a series where any characters where they take something that in reality, like in real world, you'd be like, hey, man, it's not a big deal. But in their world, it's very serious because of the way that it's set up. And they take it very seriously just because it's the way that their world is structured. I think that's really interesting, and I've always really liked that. Just the way that you can format that. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! I really like that. Like, they settle like a lot of stuff with cards. Like, it's just the way that their world is kind of moved. So in reality, when you think about, like, these guys just settled this conflict like that probably should have been taken more seriously with a game of cards. But it's like, yeah, but that's like how they settle serious things in their world. I just think that's really fun, and it it gets you immersed into the world because you have to understand the world to really get why they would do something that you would otherwise think is ridiculous. So I like the immersion that kind of comes with stuff like that. And I think the immersion of series is one of the ways that you can really appreciate them and really kind of get further attached. Because once you get in that spot where you can kind of just more understanding of the world and the characters, that's when you can have more emotional ties to stuff, where it stops just being oh yeah, it's just something I watch. It's like something you're invested in, something that you've put more than just a blank-eyed watching spot in. You put a lot more thought into what's going on in the characters. I've seen some anime with far worse animation in Black Clover. That too. I love both the manga and the anime. Me too. I'd come back after Trash 7 Deadly Sins. I like where the 7 Deadly Sins is going with the continuation. I actually really like the setup for the sequel. I haven't seen anything of like a date of when the sequel is going to come out, but I'm looking forward to it. How far can current Asta go in Fairy Tail? I mean, I think he could get up to kind of like low Wizard Saints. One of the things that kind of hurts Asta legitimately in this, legitimately in the difference between like the structure of Fairy Tail and Black Clover, that you really got to understand. One of the things that makes Asta so effective in Black Clover is because of the way that a lot of their stats are centered around for their durability. A lot of the characters use mana skin, so that essentially they're upping their durability and their resistances to things by layering mana over their body. They're essentially putting a force field over themselves. And because of the way that we know Asta's swords work, when he's hitting them, they're essentially just bypassing that shield. So he's hitting them directly with like his physical strength coupled with this very heavy sword. So it's going to do a lot more damage than it would if Asta was like, using an element and then just hitting him with a normal attack. Like if Asta had sword magic where he's just hitting them with a magical blade. And because then it would just be his magic clashing with their mana skin. Whereas instead, he's hitting them directly with the sword, and it's completely going through what's enhancing them. Whereas with Fairy Tail, their magic, the way that it enhances them, is it's inside their body. Because the wizards in Fairy Tail, their bodies are fueled by magic. They need magic pretty much to function. Like a lot of what they can do is because magic is fueling their body. To where like if they got hit by the sword, it would still, they're still getting hit by a heavy blade by a guy who's superhuman, but it's not going to be the same way that it's not going to affect them the same way of like a character in Black Clover like hitting them. But I think in terms of like that's good, that's like benefits them in that way. But something like if Asta pierced them and stabbed them with the Demon Dweller sword, kind of like what happened with Vito, it would be way more detrimental. That, I think, would be more severe than it would be in Black Clover. Because in Black Clover, you run out of magic, then it's like you're exhausted. You're like, oh man, I'm out of magic, I can't fight anymore. Fairy Tail, you run out of magic, you're in essentially a lethal position. Because magic deficiency can kill them. Like, it could kill them in their world because essentially you're taking away everything their body needs to survive. It'd be like ripping the water or the nutrients out of, somebody's body. They're going to start wasting away. That's one of the reasons why Dragon Slayers are so affected by motion sickness, because, it fucks with their ability to conjure magic and messes with their bodies. So it can be very dangerous. That's why Wendy was hospitalized at the start of the Grand Magic Games. It wasn't just like, oh, she's out of magic. It's like, oh, she's in a bad position, because she needs magic for her body to recover. So that's just kind of like the difference in those spots. And then obviously like the Fairy Tail has way more combat wizards than Black Clover does. Like it has way more characters, like Jura. Jura would be a character that would be very dangerous for Asta to fight. Because he is a very physical, hand-to-hand combat kind of, well, not entirely hand-to-hand combat, but he would be somebody that obviously can deal with Asta physically, and somebody that would be ready for, somebody with a sword coming at him. That it's not going to be, getting back and trying to open range, which would be, Asta pursuing. He would go in directly. That's one of the things also that would be bad for Asta, like while working in the Fairy Tail world, is anybody who would benefit to being close range. Because we know that's one of Asta's weaknesses, is somebody who's physically stronger and experienced in hand-to-hand kind of close combat. Because that's what we saw with Dante. The second Dante stopped doing ranged, and just got into melee combat, and because of his magic became physically stronger than Asta, he just gave him the works. He just bodied him. He completely just pummeled him. Because that is Asta's weakness. A more straight combat and battle style wizards, because generally he fights casters and people who are way more traditional caster, traditional ranged. So when a character who's super close combat, who can pretty much bypass their durability, gets up to him, he's way more dangerous. And that's the way that I think Asta is a lot more balanced in the Black Clover world, and makes it a lot more fair that he's got this broken ability, is because of the fact that he has to cover that gap with a lot of these characters, and a lot of these characters have a means to either open that gap between them and him, but also, attack him at their advantage, and just that's what they're used to, is they're not going to let him just get in. Whereas somebody like Jura is going to be dangerous for Asta to contend with. Any Slayer as well is going to be really dangerous for Asta. How far? You read that, Dodge? You think Drakengel will transmute everything around with his new form? I think it'll be kind of like a weird, like, matter conversion contact thing. Kind of like how that creature from the other dimension, Black Clover, was just kind of like oozing out. But instead of like erasing magic, obviously it's not magic in Black Clover, or in Eden Zero. It's like ether stuff. It's pretty much magic tech. But I think it'll be more of like it'll be touching stuff and like messing with them and like turning them into different materials and whatnot, but uncontrollably, and that's what'll make it more dangerous. Black Clover anime was seasonal and good animation at all times. It would be top 5 in sales. It's already really high in sales. Like, Black Clover, since coming out, has been one of Tokyo TV's like biggest profiting and selling animes. It actually does really well. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, Black Clover's anime is actually very successful. It's just that some people like to complain about the animation, but at the same time, it's like it's still doing really well. It's still very well received, and it gets a lot of support from a lot of the fans too, which I think is one of the good things about the Black Clover community. That's one of the things I really enjoy about it too, and that it's similar to like the Fairy Tail community on top of that. Like, they're toxic people, but they're also a lot of really good people, and there's a lot of people who are more appreciative of what they have, much more appreciative and polite to other fans, and overall can just kind of get along on a much more regular basis than fighting and having a lot of spats and arguments. I like that a lot. I was like, again, I don't mean to take jabs. Anytime I use like an example, it's not to be hateful. It's just like, it is what it is. Like the My Hero Academia, Boku no Hero Academia fandom, they get in in fandom like arguments on a daily basis and are always pissed off at each other for something or other. But like a lot of the Black Clover arguments are generally like more of just kind of like shooting the shit, just kind of having like power level discussions, and even if it can get kind of like, oh, whatever, bullshit, you're wrong on this, it never, like, it very rarely comes off as like serious. It's more of like, oh man, you know what you're talking about, blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, it's not something that people really dwell over. Let's see. Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a lot more series with worse animation. Wise's backstory is good, but I preferred Rebecca's and Mora's. One thing I talked about it in the video. One thing I really liked about Wise's story is he was made more out to look like the bad guy. He was made to be the problem. He was the reason a lot of stuff fell apart. And you had Sibber, who, even though we saw him before as an enemy, and that he's kind of like reformed over the years. He's at the time he was still a criminal. He was a bad guy, but in that whole environment, that whole scenario, it was Wise who was the guy causing problems, and the one that was hurt was Sibber. Like, he thought they were friends, and he was made to be even more human in that scenario, where Wise was the issue. Or also be a high tier in current Fairy Tail, but he would not be a high tier. He'd be like a mid tier. Like, you gotta keep in mind some of the stuff that's in there on top of like characters already in power. And just the differences in the way their powers work, but also like some of the characters that Asta would have so much trouble with. Also, any dragon is going to completely body the living hell out of him. Any character who's way more combat experienced, way more combat oriented, anybody who's way more durable, way more experienced in close combat, like I said. I think like Asta is effective, but I don't see him being a high tier. Absolutely not, because high tiers now are like. Wizard Saints are like high tier, maybe. Most of them are probably mid tier. Like the Spriggan are like all high tier now. Like, especially with stuff like the Dragon Gods, the White Witch, Diablos. Like there's a bunch of like more characters moving in that upper echelons. It's not like
oh, we got the White Witch and she's equal to Zeref. We also got we got 5 characters all equal to Agnologia. We don't know exactly where Eleftheria is, but Eleftheria still, like, he should be. Honestly, I feel like Eleftheria is going to end up being relatively close to Irene, unknown, but he's obviously not a pushover. He's going to be powerful. Diablos is shown to be very powerful. They're already, like, around Spriggan level. The God Seeds as well. Like, we have a lot of the big characters are, like, a lot of these guys right now, even if they're new, you still got to keep in mind they're pretty well placed even amongst older characters that were, like, really big back then. And then, like I said, any name dragon, any dragon in general is kind of got to fuck Asta over. How far can Alderaan go in Naruto? I think he can relatively beat, like, most of Naruto. I'm trying to think of, like, anybody that can really take him, because, like, I'm even like the Jubi now. I think that he could eat him the second he turns into a tree, and he's already got, like, the resistance to, because you do energy equalization, so he'd be resistant to something like chakra and, like, jutsu based attacks, and we already know something of, like, the I never remember how to pronounce his name, the Ototsuki. Like, their big thing is they can use their karma power to, or is it their karma power, or just part of one of their abilities? But, like, absorbing chakra and stuff that makes them so dangerous. So if you have a character that's just straight pretty much nigh immune to chakra, he's already going to be really powerful. He's got all these, like, dangerous abilities on top of that. Like, everything we've seen so far with Alderaan is very dangerous. I mean, his AoE and just his yells would destroy a majority of the Naruto universe, or maybe not the universe itself, but, like, the characters, Dude would just completely maul and eat a majority of what's going on in there. Imagine Elf Arc was 24 episode season. Oh, it'd go way better. Like I said, though, I'm all right with the way the Black Clover anime is. It works for it, and I think the fact that, like, the fandom, most of the fandom isn't too bothered by the animation in reality, that it makes them come off as a lot more chill of a fandom. I don't know. Because it's like, one of the things that people generally hate about, like, the My Hero fandom is, like, how a lot of the fans get super mad over just, like, dumb parts in animation, and it makes them look ungrateful. And the way that the Black Clover, I think the Black Clover fandom is really kind of shown in a majority of ways when it comes to the anime, makes them look a lot more appreciative, a lot more humble, and a lot less argumentative. They're not looking like they're looking for problems, which I've always enjoyed. I like that about the fandom. Plot twist: Jalal dies. Jalal's not gonna die. Absolutely not. How so? Him and Natsu are fairly even. Natsu is way, way above Asta. That's not even close. Asta is nowhere close to Natsu. That's not even remotely even, like, within the same ballpark. Get out of here with that, man. Alderaan is equals to Hashirama. Alderaan is way more powerful than Hashirama. Are you kidding me? Asta isn't even even Natsu. He's not even close. He's not even close. The thing that distorts, like, the perception of where Asta is because he's got the anti-magic swords. And the anti-magic swords themselves scale to Licht. They aren't as powerful as they are because of Asta. They were Licht swords, obviously the stuff that happened that turned them into anti-magic swords and whatnot. We don't have the full description and the full lore behind them, but we still know that they weren't originally his. They belong to Licht, so the level that they have should be at least up to what Licht was capable of. But Asta himself, as we've seen, isn't at level to Licht. So his power is, like, Asta's strength is below what the swords are just currently, and I think that's one of the ways also that balances it. But as we've seen, really, like right now, Dante would get mauled by Natsu. It's not even close. Asta, with a powered up form, way more powerful than what he can do normally, got bodied by Dante the second he started to kind of, like, get mildly serious. And he wasn't even that serious. He was kind of more playful. Dante would get smashed by Natsu. That's not even a fight. Natsu is way more powerful than Dante. No. Asta is nowhere near Natsu's level right now. Not even remotely close. Rex, where do you rank the well in her mermaid form compared to Berserk Asta? I wouldn't even put her at, like, half, because you gotta keep in mind, like, Vonica was cut in half. Like, her power was halved when it came to, like, her abilities, and like she was still really dangerous for Noelle. And Noelle wasn't like going even with her. Noelle was pretty much just trying to lure her out. She was baiting her into using more of her power. What's up, Sheridan? K's going. We need an Acnologia spinoff. I would love to see an Acnologia, just like Volume, where we just kind of like see his life of like him becoming the Dragon King and whatnot, becoming the big dangerous boy that he is, or was at least. When are we going to get more Nalu moments in this arc? Maybe, I think further in, because Alderaan, the fact that Alderaan can read minds, I think he knows about what's going on with Natsu, and I think that he's going to be the one to reveal the theory. And I still think it's a theory, but I think it's a very likely theory that Natsu is linked to Lucy now instead of being linked to Zareth. I think that the link went into her when she messed with the book. And with Alderaan, that's a really good opportunity to show it, or at least to reveal it fully. So I rewatched Tower of Heaven arc, and it's still as good as I remember. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that looks a lot better now that I remember, because now I'm watching it like the HD version. It's probably from like the fixed up Blu-rays and stuff, instead of just some random website where they got it at like 360p. Yeah, what's up, Sheridan Kane? How's it going, man? That's not at me. Jalal needs to confess to Urza after the fight with Gears. Urza knows, but it's more of the fact that Jalal still thinks that he hasn't made up for it. He doesn't think he's deserving of her. So what we need is like Urza, because Urza needs to be like, hey, listen, man, I don't give a shit, and just kind of push things forward. Because Jalal is gonna keep like his whole spot of just never thinking that he's gonna make up for all the stuff that he's done. Urza's gonna be the one I think that needs to do that. I think she's gonna have to be the one to kind of like get his head back on track. I hope we get more feats from Draken Joe before he's defeated. Me too. I want to see more of Draken Joe's abilities. What's your thoughts on Sakura and Sasuke? I've never been a real fan of Sakura. Sasuke, I don't know. I think he's fine. I've never really been a Sasuke fan. I've never been a guy that I never hated him, but I've never really been like a guy who's like, oh, Sasuke, blah blah blah. It's like, he's never really been my guy. I don't know. Like, even back when I was, like, a Naruto, like, back when when Naruto was just kind of starting to really boom, like, over in America, I was never really a huge Sasuke guy. My enemy guy, probably my favorite at the time of, I remember, like, back in, I think I was in middle school at the time, but, I really liked Neji. Neji was, like, my guy when it came to, like, an enemy, or, like, an opponent character that Naruto would, at one point fight and do stuff with. I thought Neji was really cool. Oh, do you think of the most likely pairings for Ida and Zoro? I mean, we don't really have much for ships right now. I mean, outside of like the general ones, like idea of like Rebecca and Shiki, I would have liked Shiki, and personally, I think Shiki and Homura is more interesting. Just my personal opinion, just because I think it would be a interesting twist. I don't think it will, because we know that Shiki's power is going to have some relation to Cat Leaper. And as we've seen before, like it has some form of way that it affects it. So, I can. I mean, it's kind of obvious at this point. That's fine. But other than that, I mean, I don't think we have much to work with when it comes to ships. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. The strongest feat, Black Clover, like is near the bust in the Clover. I mean, yeah, the largest like known feat is Demon Licht, who is going to potentially destroy the country. And then the Clover Kingdom is not a large country; it's pretty small. And Lumiere wasn't sure if he was going to be able to handle it. I mean, it's consistent with what we've seen. Like when we saw Julius go all out, when we saw Patries kind of like all his stockpiled magic, and we saw how like it took up like because the capital's like a third, I think, of the Clover Kingdom. Just like trying to remember the map. So it makes sense. Like if them at max, these Wizard King level people can take out like a third of the country, then a character who can take out the full country, even if it's a small country, the full kind of extent, then that's consistent with like the way that their power levels are set. I know there's going to be some people that like bring up like the salamander, evaporating like a part of an ocean. I can't really use that because you don't have a time frame, it's vague, you don't know the size of the body of water that it's affecting. It'd be like me trying to push the statement we have about dragons in Fairy Tail, like one of them was able to completely wipe out multiple countries. And a country in Fairy Tail is massive. Like Fiore alone is, I think it's like 60 6,500 kilometers wide from west to east. So their small countries are the size of our real world continents, which isn't a new thing in series to have like a world much bigger than our real world. It's it's happened in a lot of series, so it's understandable. I mean, especially if it's straight with stuff we already know existed in it, like straight numbers and whatnot. Whereas the Clover Kingdom, like, we don't know how large the Black Clover world is, but we've seen the continent that the Clover Kingdom and the four kingdoms are existent in. So we know that there's more out there, but this is just what we've seen so far. I mean, that's the same thing that we got with Fairy Tail. Like, at the start, we only really know Fiore, and then we started to see more, and we started to get more of the world. Even if Fiore ended up being a lot bigger than I think a lot of people thought it would be, it's still like, you got to keep in mind of the scope of what we know now versus the scope of the world, There could be a lot more out there. We just haven't seen it yet. Maybe there's way bigger countries and empires out there. We just haven't gotten that far in the story. Who knows? Let's see. Berserk Asta would destroy Mermaid Noelle. I mean, yeah. Naruto, Natsu, Ichigo, Asta, Meliodas, Luffy. I'd say I would agree. I think Naruto is stronger than Natsu right now. I think Natsu is going to be way stronger by the end of it, because like what we saw with his with the Aetherius Dragon Force form, against Mercephobia, he wasn't even a full dragon. He wasn't even a full dragon at that point. Like that was only partially. Like when he becomes a full dragon and like if he's got his demon powers on top of it, he's going to be way stronger than what we saw. And Naruto has long since peaked. I really doubt Naruto is going to be any stronger at any point in the story. Like, obviously, his legend is, his story is kind of, it has passed. It's about Boruto now. So what happens next is going to have to do with Boruto. Boruto will probably surpass him and stuff. But for now, like, Naruto, I'd say above Natsu, but I think Natsu by the end of it is going to be way more powerful. Alderaan would stomp Hashirama. Yeah. Alderaan would eat Hashirama is the thing. He's way stronger. Okay, I'm about caught up. Let's see. Where was I? I think I was looking at a comment from I think it was Jason before I accidentally lost my spot. Damn it. Let's see. Scrolling up. Let's see. Damn it, I'm way more behind than I thought I was. I'm trying to find some of these Natsu flicks. I don't even know what he's referring to yet. Oh my god. Jeez, there's so many comments. I was like halfway. Tartarus definitely gonna have the best end. Oh, Tartarus had great go rewatch Tartarus. Like, a lot of Tartarus' animation looked really good. Obviously not the whole thing. The point where Margear shows up to the point when he dies looks fantastic. Like, it's actually really weird, because I wanted to rewatch some parts, and then I was like, every time I got to a part, I was like, actually, I'm just going to watch when he shows up, and then, all the way until his defeat. It looks great. I haven't rewatched the whole arc in a while, but it looks really good all the way from that point. Oh my god, why is there? There's so much that I'm behind on. So much. Holy shit. I need to catch up, so I'm gonna read some of this really fast. Oh my god. I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch up with all this. I'm going to go really fast down and try and look for stuff. Okay, luckily a lot of this isn't people talking at me. It's people arguing with each other in my chat. Walls of Therion being weaker in any way. Yeah, there's no assumption that Therion is weaker, or Walls of Therion is weaker than the other Therion. Wall is a far more advanced system. The way he achieves it is way more advanced. When we know that Aetherion, at the level of Aetherion, when it gets to that level, is what it makes it so. And unless it's a straight stated difference, then there's no reason to assume it's any different. When you have a baseline for something, there's no reason to assume it's either below or above the baseline unless it's straight stated. Like, for instance, Dragon Slayers in general are one of the things default that they've always shown is they have very high durability. They're very stamina and durability based characters. And so a Dragon Slayer, even though we didn't really get to see a lot from God Serena, we still know what should be just kind of standard with his power, with the fact he was Dragon Slayer. The only times that I've really seen, the only times that I think we can argue different, stuff like Cobra. Cobra's isn't going to be high offense because his attribute isn't based around destructive capabilities, it's poison.
Kyria isn't going to have high durability because she has emphasis on offensive capability, just like how Madmol isn't going to be him having lower offensive capability than what you'd expect is because he emphasizes on durability. Stuff like that is like, okay, yeah, that's because of a certain style difference between how their powers work. Do you think Lucy will surpass Brandish by the end of her Hero's Quest? Yes, I do. Absolutely. I'm trying to see some of this. Any questions that I missed that if you guys dropped that that you really wanted to ask, just re-ask them. Because there's so much right now, and I think I lost my place, and I'm just scrolling by, and there's a lot of stuff that isn't at me. Raxi, the government, and other criminals trying to keep an eye, especially on Rebecca. They find out what her power is and maybe even take it. I hope they don't find out about that. I'm really hoping that the whole space government. I forget what they're called all the time. They have a long name. I'm hoping that they aren't like we're a bad corrupt government. Like we know that there was corruption going on in the within the Magic Council in Fairy Tail. I'm hoping that like the Eden Zero one is actually more of like they're not bad guys. It's more of like the fact that the Eden Zero crew is always kind of getting on their radar of doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and they're like, listen, we need to deal with these guys. I think I mean they could have bad guys in it, but I'm hoping it's not going to have something like Crawford and Jalal and stuff. I don't want Justice to be in any way similar to like Jalal's story. I'm hoping he has a full different build and story, because even it's fun when you have certain similarities and they're just done in different ways. But I don't want it to deal with people who think like, oh, like he's just like Jalal because he drank out of a cup in this scene that was similar to this scene. I was like, oh my god, please no. But yeah, let's see. There was nothing to say Walls Ethereon is weaker than normal Ethereon. That's just straight stop. That's just straight out there. Power of teamwork, but there's no way Vonica is going down these. I think Vonica will get sealed. I don't think she's going to get beaten. I think they're going to end up kind of like putting a seal on her and taking her as hostage, which I think would be a really interesting turn of events, but it wouldn't be straight defeating her, because at that point, like, if they beat her, it would obviously, like, it kind of de-hype a little bit, because they just showed up, so you don't want the Dark Triad to come off as weak. That's one of the things I really like what's going on right now, because it's being emphasized on how powerful they are by them showing up doing all this stuff. So I think if Vonica is taken hostage because of stuff like if they steal her magic and devil powers and whatnot, it would have a really interesting plot twist and a really interesting kind of like thing that they could do in the story with like how they're going to handle that. But also it wouldn't de-hype her. It wouldn't take away anything to do with like how highly positioned she is in the story. Isn't Fiore like 20 kilometers wide or something? Yes, Fiore is big, and Fiore is big to us. Fiore is small in the Fairy Tail world. Their world is much bigger than ours. Let's see. What would you say Urza and Jalal Kid look like? Purple hair. I'm hoping a mix. But I'm wondering actually if they would have the eye tattoo. Because I'm wondering, because Jalal had that as a kid, so I'm wondering if it's ever going to be explained or if it's actually just like a birthmark. Because in Rave Master, like all of the people from Mildian had that eye tattoo. It had to do with their people, but we don't really know anything about it with Jalal. Just like we don't know anything about it with like Mercephobia. Well, I guess Merce is kind of like a design choice because that's not his real appearance. That's a transformation that he, a form that he decided to have and decided how it looked. I heard the Earthline is like 19 times the size of Earth, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. It's bigger, but I don't remember if there's an exact amount. 19 honestly sounds very logical, and that's only from what we've seen. There's another continent we haven't gotten the name of or any information on that Gray is from. And if you look on the Earthland map, next to the Penguard Kingdom, there's another continent there that doesn't have a name. It doesn't have anything that we know about. But we know that Gray should be over from that direction. And we know Gray's from a different continent. So that's probably where Gray is from. And I think, because Alzak and Bisca are from a different continent too. I don't think it's ever straight stated. And I don't think it was Alva or Alakatasia, because otherwise I think it would have been stated during the arc if this empire, like this place that they're from, would coming to invade. I think it would have been plot important to mention that. So I don't think they're from the one. I think they're from the same one Gray is from. Oh wait, man, I missed a comment. God, man, Bugs and acting like he didn't show any secret arts. I mean, yeah, but he kind of went more into like raw dragon stuff. Like he didn't have any name attacks other than Eternal Flare. Will LSR be the final villain? It's possible. I think that the weird mural he has is some form of gate. I think it's some form of gate or portal. Have you heard J Cloud's anime talk? I know. Yeah, I think we follow each other on Twitter. I haven't talked to him much. I should try talking to him. Maybe see if he wants to show up for the next like Black Clover stream. Because I think he's a Black Clover fan. Which was which was better, Grand Magic Games or Chunin Exams? I thought they were both good, but I really liked the Grand Magic Games. I thought it was really fun. I liked that it was much more of a bright kind of setup and much more of a positive kind of like style, and then kind of went to like a darker chaos. Like I mean, it wasn't like obviously the tuning exams went to a similar kind of like level of like hectic off of the schedule kind of setup, but it was never the same level of positivity, and the character like the reason in joining was much more about the characters moving to the next step in their lives as ninjas, whereas the Grand Magic Games, is about making up for the lost time and making up for these the humiliation at the guild and pain that they went through over the 7 years, and trying to get them back on top so that they can get respected again, and they can stop being treated so poorly and everything. There's a completely different emotional impact behind both of them. And I like one of the things I like about the Grand Magic Games more is that way more kind of grounded reason that they would do it. Way more of like it has to do with their guild and like events in the story that relates to stuff that happened prior. Not that the shooting exams were bad or anything. That's just my opinion. I like to add more to do with because of what happened the previous arc, that emotional weight is carried over and has to do with what's going on there. Let's see. Ishkar's aired several times the area. Yeah, Ishkar is huge. Reaction to Broku's video. I haven't watched it yet. I'll at me on Twitter. I'll check that out. Acnologia destroys each guy. Acnologia is broken. I mean, the fact that he could just eat almost any of their attacks, like, because when you have cross universal stuff, any powers and any kind of like rule setups, like with stuff like their energies, as long as they meld, like they are very similar, you treat them the same. So stuff like Ryotsu and magic power would be treated like about the same. So Acnologia would just eat like any Getsuga Tensho that sends him away. He's way more physically stronger than Ichigo. It's not like Ichigo's swords are indestructible. So at least if he gets like hands on the sword and breaks it, then Ichigo's fucked. And the obviously like dangerous thing about anybody with a Zanpakuto, you break their Zanpakuto and they're kind of screwed. That's one of the dangerous things about if you only have one weapon and that weapon is like really based around your powers and stuff. So Suidanzer will probably get an anime based on everything that's been tweeted. It looks like it. I'm pretty hyped for it. Best lightning user in anime. I mean, the ones I like, obviously Laxus. I like Zatch Bell. I'm trying to think of just some people. I count Kaiba because Blue Arts uses lightning, so Kaiba's in there. There's my 3 right there. I'm just gonna drop them. When people think Yami beat Dante. Oh, well, that's when we get back to that fight. People are gonna see the gap of like really between the two, because I think Dante is gonna get serious and body the hell out of him. Not like no div, but I think he's gonna kind of like overwhelm him and really win once he gets serious. Jason Keeper can Ichigo beat Acnologia? I don't think Ichigo can beat Acnologia. Someone scaled Fiore to the rest of Earthland, so it looks like 1/3 diameter. Wait, someone scaled Fiore to the rest of Earthland. Yeah, Fiore, or the Fairy Tale world is huge. I mean, like I've already said, it's a lot bigger. Ishgal is huge. Its diameter is like 10. I think it's like 8 or 9 times the diameter of Earth just from that one continent. And we have 3 continents. And even when you compare them, like Alakatasia, I remember Alakatasia. I'm just trying to remember exactly like a map. It's a little bit bigger. Giltine is a lot bigger than Ishgal. And we don't even know if there's only going to be 4 continents. There might be more. Maybe there's only 4. Who knows? Magi and Sinbad. I'll finish Magi one day. Who do you think is stronger, Sister or Homura? I'd go with Sister. Wait, no, Sister? I'd go with Homura. I was thinking of which for a second. Ishgal isn't that big. Ishgal isn't even 10 times the diameter. Wait, what? Oh, I think it's about 10 times. It's pretty big. I mean, yeah, the Pengar Kingdom alone is a lot bigger than Fiore, and that's only one of the other countries. And you got to keep in mind their territory and not just the physical land. That's all of their territory. Totoro. Yeah, Totoro's a good animation. Who do you ship Shoto with Todoroki? I don't know. I don't ship My Hero very much. I don't think I ship anyone in My Hero. Oh, do you agree that Vanica is gonna bust out of Nero's? The thing is, if that happens, they're gonna die. Like she'll kill Lolo for sure. If that doesn't work and she just breaks out, I don't really see a way that they can kind of keep people from getting killed. Other than that, like somebody's gonna end up dead, because then if she's like full powered out and like nothing can stop her, then what are they gonna do? East of Penguin is easily a separate. Yeah, it's a separate continent, and we know that Gray is from. I'm trying to remember Compass too. It's like maps and compass, because obviously north and south. I think west. Just looking at a compass face on. I think I'm trying to remember west and east. I get west and east always confused, and I don't know. Let me pull up a compass. I'm gonna pull up a compass really quick, or I guess an atlas. Or let's see, compass. And to see. I think west. I think it's west. I think it's the west of Ishkal. It's that other kingdom. I'm trying to remember because I know, or is it east? It's east. I'd have to look. Because I know Gray, when Gray came to Fiore, when he was on his way to Fiore, he had to cross that river. I think he had to cross that river that goes, that separates, like it's right after the border into Fiore. I'd have to go back and look at Ice Trail. But I can't remember if that was in Fiore or if that was leading to Fiore. But I know that was on his journey to the Fairy Tail Guild. I see you're a man of culture. That's not at me. Have you heard of 40 manga? Yeah, I saw that. None of them that I saw that I looked too hyped for. There was a one shot that was actually really interesting because it looked a little horror themed. I thought was pretty hype. Black Clover versus Fairy Tail would dominate. They have way more. Now I don't. So one of the things, if you've only read the manga, you haven't read any of the spinoffs, you haven't watched the movies, you haven't read any of the anime exclusives, they have so much more stuff. Because Black Clover doesn't have much for outside of like magic. They have curses, but like curses aren't explored too much right at the moment. Fairy Tail also has curses. You have dragons. You have technology. Like the technology aspect, you don't really see much of in the main story. But if you read Fairy Girls, which is a spinoff that just is, it's the females of Fairy Tail. They have their own little adventures. It's a couple volumes. There's some pretty accomplished scientists within the Fairy Tail world. No magic that are able to make some pretty impressive things just from technology. There's a guy who made a giant mech bear that has like feet the size of volcanoes. Like he would, by that alone, would be so dangerous to a majority of Black Clover, and especially because if it's not magic, like he can make force fields. He has one of the dudes can just put Austin in a force field. Austin wouldn't be able to get out of it. Like his force fields aren't magic, so his swords wouldn't do anything. You could just render like one of Black Clover's biggest characters completely out of it from that one dude. Like that's how they almost beat the Fairy Tail team. Is they put them in a barrier. They had no real way to deal with it. I can't remember exactly how they beat them. I think Ursa didn't get caught in, or one of them didn't get caught in, and they were able to kind of like work that in their favor. Let's see. Check out For Neverworld video. What did For Neverworld do? I don't really watch For Neverworld videos, but did he do something that'll bug me? Just comparable to Gas Giants. Let's see. Yeah, Fairy Tail would completely dominate. Julius would be Spriggan level in terms of just obviously he's got a really broken power. Like that's one of the obvious things. And he's got some pretty good skills. The thing is when it comes to like him in comparison to like power levels, like if you didn't take the hacks into mind, like he wouldn't even come close to some like Brandish, who like the level of Julius's AoE and like the effectiveness, like obviously he's hacks, like that's his setter. I'm talking about just like in the display of it, he wouldn't come close because like when it comes to like the AoE and the effectiveness of some of their magic, of just like the environment and like how crazy they could do some of their stuff, like Brandish, August, Irene, like all these guys were doing way bigger stuff, and like especially because he only has one type of magic, would be kind of dangerous for him. It'd be kind of hard because if you only got one thing versus like somebody like Bloodman would be very dangerous for him to fight. But he's got the advantage in terms of what he lacks in the fact that his magic is so it's so good, obviously, because time magic in general is like a really good ability. Time manipulation in general is a really good power. This is a thick planet. Yeah, it's a very thick planet. The Fairy Tail world's pretty big. Let's see. Oh crap! I scrolled down by mistake. I missed the hell out of Mystica. I wish Mystica never took off that mask. Yacht versus the Fairy Tail universe. I mean, Yacht, anybody who can just cancel out his power can take him out. Like anybody who could essentially like zero out his Ryatsu would completely beat him. Because that's legitimately like, you cut off his power, he's screwed. He's fully susceptible to like power negation. So it sucks to be him. And especially if you had somebody like Zeref. I mean, Yacht is powerful, but like Zeref, I mean, Zeref is so much more broken. And then if you get into like Soul King, the Soul King version, then you pull up something like Fairy Heart Zeref, and then it's just like ridiculous hacks versus ridiculous hacks. But Zeref's ridiculous hacks, I think, is a lot better. Just from what I've seen, I don't know. I don't want to argue too much over it because like a lot of people that go in power levels for Yacht get a little too ridiculous with him. I don't believe that it's too much for Fairy Tail. Like when both of them got into their forms, like Zeref and Yacht, both of them were ridiculous. But I think Zeref was more ridiculous based off of just the fact that he was immortal, could reset timelines, had everything else at his disposal. I mean, he only lost because of somebody that he designed in order to defeat him was able to defeat him. Like Zeref got what he wanted. I mean, also Yacht's death I don't really like. I don't really like how they did it, but I'm hoping they maybe alter something in the anime, maybe kind of lay out stuff a little earlier. Zeref can't really interact with things with time stop. Says what? Natsu tried to hit him with a sword, and it didn't do anything. And Zeref's time stop should be far superior to Damaria's by just being in general a far superior character in literally every degree. Like Irene is way more powerful than Demaria, and Irene at her peak is still nothing to even base Zeref. Like not even close. No, Yacht can't steal powers. He can pull back powers he gave out. I don't know how to pronounce Shrifts. He gave those to the Stern Ritter. He can take them back. He can't just take powers from people. Zeref can. Zeref can straight rip powers out of people's bodies. And the fact he could time stop, teleport, and rip somebody's power out and take it, that's too much for him. That's too much for Yacht. You wouldn't be able to do that. Sinbad is multiversal in the manga. I mean, the same way that you can kind of argue that with Sinbad, you can argue that with Zeref. But I think that's more of like a hacks thing and not as much as like a straight power output. But I don't know. That's based only off of what I've read about Magi. I never finished it. But I don't really care too much. I mean, there's always going to be stronger characters, so it's not a big deal to me. Earthland, the whole planet. I mean, it's a big planet. I'm scrolling down. I'm trying to get caught up. Let's see. I'm just going to go to the bottom. Any other questions, just pull them up. Lucia versus Zeref. Zeref would win. Lucia's strong, but like Zeref outdoes him in every category, and he's got his arsenal so much bigger. It's ridiculous. Beastie Rots. What's up, boy? Or fuck, I messed that. I was gonna say Beastie Boy, and then I messed that up. And I was gonna say Beastie Riots, and I said Beastie Rots, and then anyway. Hello, Beastie Rots. How's it going? I don't know why I said that. Boy, I got mixed up like 4 times, so I'll read your name of just stuff that I associated with it. All the stuff that's not involving me. Anyway, I think that's pretty good. I think we had a pretty chill stream. I think I'm gonna end it here, and I'm gonna work on some videos. I'm a little bit behind on some of the ones I played, but I'm gonna do, just telling you guys before I end it. I'm gonna do my stuff setting up for more of my reread stuff, as well as I want to do my Acnologia video, because I've been prepping up to do a video on Acnologia for a while, and I just haven't gotten around to recording it. I've got all my stuff planned out. I just need to get it all finished, set up, and then just record. Zeref versus Dark Shadow. I don't know anything about Dark Shadow. Isn't he like a high multiversal, like straight out crazy character? Margear versus Julius. The thing is, I don't think Julius could do anything because the Etherias don't seem to age. Because they're not even they're not even natural beings. They're man-made individuals that just they don't seem to age. So I doubt they would really do anything to him. Because like anybody that isn't affected by stuff like aging, like what is like, because like Zeref doesn't age, like Acnologia doesn't age, the Etherias don't seem to age, other than Natsu, but Natsu is a different kind of like creation to it. So like I don't see how Margear would be affected by Julius's time magic. I mean, he could probably lock him, But at that point, like, he's just gonna get hit by curses and stuff, and he's gonna like Alegria. Second Alegria goes down. Second, if he gets hit by Memento Mori, it's over. Absolutely over. I don't know anything about Dark Schneider, so I'm not gonna comment on that. Irax, do you ship Elsie and Justice? I mean, I feel like they're gonna be an obvious ship. Who's smarter, Lucy, Urza, or Lucy? Lucy's way smarter. I mean, that's like one of her things. Is she's very intelligent. She's a very smart person. Drac versus Priest, time skip Jura. Oh, that version? I would go with Drac and Joe. I definitely go with Drac and Joe on that. Anyway, yeah, I'm scrolling down. A lot of people like argue random power level stuff. I'm just like, listen, I'm not a super power level guy. I think I know what I'm talking about in some cases, but not all the time, obviously. Oh my god, let me read this and then I'm gonna end it. I mean, it's funny how Natsu makes scare faces in the build. Yeah, sometimes. Just saying, Rax, I don't think Zeref is that strong. Like, if he encounters someone who's far too physically powerful for him, even though he wouldn't die, he'd really be able to do anything. I mean, not really. Like, Zeref, anytime, if Zeref didn't, like, the thing is, when it comes to, like, him, he's super hacked, super intelligent. He's actually a really powerful character. We didn't see a lot of, like, him incorporating a lot of his hacks into fights, just because anytime he actually did anything, he would pretty much just overwhelm his opponents. I mean, look at, like, when Makarov was like a face in. Like, Zeref didn't, like, let's have a fight. It was just, he was set up going to use something to kill him. The only time that he really kind of, like, abandoned hacks is when he was fighting Natsu, because he wanted to fight him. He wanted to get a good battle with him. Hades versus Julius. I would honestly really put that down to whoever hits first. Because it would be Julius hits him with an attack, ages him to dust, or Hades drops a Amaterasu on him and takes him out. Next, I don't know anything. I need to read God of High School before I comment on more God of High School stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna end it. Team Natsu versus Sasuke Retrieval Arc Squad. I'm gonna go team. I'd go team Natsu. I think they're stronger, and plus they have way more to work with. And that was like before Naruto started to get really kind of like started to pick up in power levels and stuff. How smart is Draken compared to Hades and Margear as a criminal leader? I mean, in terms of like a crime lord, he's got more going on because that's what he's working on. That's what he wants. Whereas the other two, they have their own schemes that were more about like a much different kind of style plan. Julius beats Hades as well. Like I said, it's first one to land off the attack in my opinion. Hades either drops a Amaterasu or Julius drops the attack in this generic time attack that turns him into dust. And just from what I see, that's just one of those times. Whichever one really hits first. Anyway, I'm gonna end it. No more me answering crazy fictional fight stuff. I gotta end this. I meant to end a few minutes ago, but I've just been rambling on. We'll do more next week. I'm gonna try and plan out a stream with some other YouTubers. Either do one with maybe like Get Broku. We'll talk about Black Clover and Fairy Tail ones again, or we can get the Magic Parliament together and we can just have a nice Black Clover stream. So I feel like maybe that might be like a completely different stream instead of just this Saturday. We'll see though. Anyway, yeah, comment below, and why did I say comment below? This isn't a video, this is a stream. Anyway, yeah, talk to you guys next week. Thanks everyone for showing.